Welcome back to day 8 of the TryHackMe Advent 2024. Yesterday we did some AWS log analysis using CloudTrails and CloudWatch. That was super cool, super interesting. Today we're diving into a little more of the red team side. We're going to be looking at some shellcode, doing some reverse shell stuff, so it's going to be pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and dive into this. I'm going to go ahead and read us the story so we're caught up. For those of you that are new here, I'm Aaron, aka Cyber Sensei Aaron, and I've been doing a walkthrough of the Advent of 2024 for TryHackMe. And after this is done, I'm going to be releasing content regularly on different cybersecurity topics, education, and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get into it. Glitch, a skilled but mistrusted hacker, was prepping for a tech conference. He was eager to share his shellcode script that remotely accessed his home system. As he worked, he noticed Mayor Malware's henchmen lurking nearby. "They're wasting their time. I don't have anything they'd want," Glitch chuckled. He didn't realize that hidden in his home system was something they desperately sought, a research paper he wrote on Warville's defenses, a treasure Mayor Malware was eager to obtain. So it looks like they're going to try to hack into Glitch's home system, steal his report to understand a little bit more about the defenses. Today's learning objectives, we're going to be learning about the fundamentals of writing shellcode and how we do that. And then we're going to generate shellcode for reverse shells, and then we're going to execute shellcode with PowerShell. So today we're going to be needing our attack box and our VM. Move this down here. Let's go ahead over here. Start your machine up here if you haven't already. If you want to start your attack box, you got to go up here. There's going to be a button right here that's going to say start attack box. I already have, and I put it in browser window. So before we get started, we have a few terms that we need to get to understand, just so we know what we're talking about when we're actually getting into the thick of it. So shellcode is a piece of code that's usually used by malicious actors during exploits like buffer overflow attacks to inject commands, often leading to execution of arbitrary commands or giving attackers control over a compromised machine. So shellcode is typically written in assembly language, and what we'll see later on is how that actually looks. So you could think of it as, so there's 3 levels, right? There's binary, which is the base level, which is the computer. That's what the computer talks. That's ones and zeros, only ones and zeros. And then assembly is a step above that, which is a set of commands that we're giving to memory and the processor. And then above that, we have the C programming language. And then above that is all the other ones. So that's how you could think about the hierarchy, right? Binary is the bottom level, assembly is the second level, and then C is the third level, and above that is every other programming language. So PowerShell, we're familiar with that. We've used it a bunch of times here. It's a scripting language and a command line shell that's built into Windows. And here where you can do anything. It's usually run as administrator, so everything that's executed through PowerShell usually has system or admin privileges. Windows Defender is Windows anti-malware service that's built in. It's a security feature that every Windows comes with. It's updated pretty regularly. And the whole point of it is it scans code at runtime to ensure that it's not malicious. Windows API, so that's the application programming interface that Windows has. And what it does is it allows programs to interact with the underlying operating system, giving them access to essential system level functions such as memory management, file operations, and networking, etc. So pretty much calling system functions and stuff like that, because we're going to be needing to do that when we're executing our reverse shell. And you can see the 3 that are frequently used, which is a virtual allocation, create thread, and wait for single object. Then accessing Windows API through PowerShell reflection. So what that means is instead of relying on pre-compiled binaries, PowerShell reflection allows attackers to actually call the Windows API functions directly at runtime. and this enables them to manipulate low-level system processes, making it a primary tool for bypassing security mechanisms, interacting with the operating system, and executing code stealthily. And then the last thing we have here is reverse shell. So it's a type of connection where we catch the computer trying to reach out on that port, and then we establish a connection via TCP. Let's move to the middle. So this is us, this is the victim, this is their IP, this is our IP, this is the port we want to connect on. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to exploit this victim computer and have it execute our shellcode script, and this is going to cause a reverse TCP connection over port 4444 to our port 444, and we're listening, and then we catch that connection, right? So let's go ahead and move on. So this is an example of the shellcode, and that is hexadecimal. We're going to be using msfvenom to generate this shellcode, and this is the command here. So they break it down here for us what the command is doing. So this part right here, we're specifying the type of reverse shell that we want to generate. So we're generating it for Windows X 64-bit version. The P flag tells us that we're wanting to create a payload. So this is the payload, which is a reverse shell that we're wanting to create. The L host is going to be your host, so the IP of your attack box. The L port is going to be the port you want to establish this connection over. We're going to be using 1111 for this one. And then F is the format, so we want it to be a PowerShell shell when it connects. So that's what this initial command is doing. So let's go ahead and run that and generate our shellcode here. So we're going to go over to the attack box. We're going to go to the terminal here. So there we have it. Paste. Don't just copy and paste blindly like me. Make sure you're actually editing your IP. So we can see our IP right there in the command line. So we're root at IP. So it's gonna be 10 44 130. Boom. Now it should work. So yep, there we go. We got the shellcode output. This is the payload size, and then the PowerShell file is 2259 bytes. That's what this would look like. So let's go back over here. So here is the explanation of what shellcode actually is. It's a hex-encoded byte array, which starts with these 3 hexadecimal numbers. And the whole point of it is to basically, instead of seeing ones and zeros, we're seeing the hexadecimal, so it's a little bit easier to read. The length is not as long, and it just makes it overall easier to deal with. So this is an example PowerShell script that we would use to be able to actually execute this payload and reverse shell. So taking a look at it here, we're gonna be putting our stuff right here. So that output we got, this whole array, we would be putting it in that shellcode placeholder. And then what the script is essentially doing is running that payload, and then it's gonna send out the reverse shell, and we're gonna catch it on our attacker box. They actually do explain the whole code here. So DLL import is an attribute to load specific functions from the kernel 32 DLL, which is part of the Windows API. So we're going to be using these 3 right here: virtual alloc, create thread, wait for single object. So this function is going to allocate memory for the whole script and process. Create thread, this function creates a new thread in the process. So basically just making sure we have a thread on the CPU to execute our shellcode. And then this function pauses execution until a specific thread finishes its task. So basically, we're going to create a thread in the CPU for us to get execution of our shellcode and script. And then we're going to have this, which makes the system wait until it's successfully executed, which is important because if not, it will just move on to another thing that's got to do. we're storing the shellcode in the buff variable, which I mentioned earlier. They have this there, so that's where we're going to paste in all the shellcode. It's talking about the memory for the shellcode here. So it allocates a block of memory where the shellcode will be stored. The script uses the following arguments. So we're having 3,000 bytes of storage in the memory. You can see that's enough because our final size was 460 bytes for the payload, so that's more than enough. So we'll go ahead and execute. If you did want to learn more about exactly what's happening here and go into the nitty gritty, you definitely could read through this. And at the end, they usually link a room. So right here, you could actually learn how to evade the shellcode, or make your shellcode evade like Microsoft Defender and stuff like that, and also dive a little bit deeper into it as well. But for time's sake and for you guys sitting there trying to figure out what the hell I'm saying, we're just gonna move forward. So now we're gonna execute some shellcode. That's pretty fun. So we're gonna be using netcat here to open up a listener for when we execute our reverse shell. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna do nc dot, dash, I think it's nvlp. Yep, nvlp. And so if we wanted to understand more about what these flags do, you can always do man and then the command you want to use. And it's going to give us an entire manual page of what this does. So you can see arbitrary TCP and UDP connections and listens. So netcat's one of the ways you can listen for reverse shell connections. And let's take a look at the flags we're using here. So you see P is source port, V is our table, and then we have L and N. It doesn't look like it's there. So we'll go in here. So L is okay. So L, we're specifying listening mode versus connection mode. And then N is going to be do not do DNS service lookups. So pretty much just listen, don't do anything else, wait for the incoming connection. And then we know P is port and V is verbose output. So just, pretty much output exactly what you're getting. So that's how you can find out what those flags do if you didn't already know. So we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to be 11:11 today. Boom. And we're now listening. So now what we got to do is execute this code on our desktop. What we got to do is we got to add the shellcode in the PowerShell script that we saw earlier, and then we want to run it. Alright guys, so I did a little bit of digging, and the copy and paste for me on Windows machines on TryHackMe doesn't work, and I'm not going to sit here and write all this code because no. So I figured out a workaround, which is actually a way you can use post exploitation to get like your shellcode scripts and stuff onto Windows machines or Linux machines. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a HTTP server of our attack box here. And the way you do that is very simple. So it's going to be python3-m http.server, and then we're going to specify a port. So this is the command you would use, and what it's going to do is pretty much make an HTTP server of your entire box. And before we do that, we're going to open up Sublime Text. We're going to copy over the PowerShell script. Make sure we put in the changes that we need to put in there, and then save it to the desktop. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to copy all that. Paste that there. Then we're going to hit a little pasty right there. Boom. Alright, so we paste this over. This isn't a complete script. What we need to do is continue pasting over these right here. So we're going to get this, and then we're going to paste that in here. And then we're gonna get this stuff, because this is the part where we're actually allocating the memory and then creating the thread and then executing. So that's a little important. Alright, so we're gonna paste that in there. Alright, so we've got our script pasted in there. Just make sure it's alright. Alright, cool. Now what we need to do is make sure we have our shellcode to paste in there. So we'll go back up here. Get this. And paste that in there. Make sure to edit your IP on here. Boom, run that, and boom, we get the output. So let me get this. Alright, gonna copy that. Go back over to the Sublime file, and then right here we're just gonna paste it in. Boom, we got it. So let's go ahead and save this. We're gonna do a save as. And we want to do, call it shellcode.ps1, because we want it to be a PowerShell file. Boom. And yeah, guys, I apologize for the lagginess of this. I don't know what's going on today. It's normally not this laggy. Alright, so we've made the script, we've pasted our shellcode in there, so it's now time to execute. But first we got to get it onto our Windows machine. So we're going to go back to our HTTP server, port 8000. It can be any port you really want. I'm just doing 8000 because it's the default one. Run that, boom. Now you can see we're serving. So now what we got to do is we go back over here to our Windows machine, and you can use PowerShell to do this. You can do invoke web request or a curl, but I'm just gonna do it the easy way. So HTTP, and then yeah, you just type in your IP for your attack box, :8000, and what that colon means just means we're specifying a port to that IP. And this is important because if you don't put the 8000, it won't connect, right? Because it's gonna go over port 80, which is HTTP standard, and we're not listening. Our server isn't on port 80, it's on port 8000. So it's important to specify the port, because if not, it will not connect. And you can see here, now we can see all the files on our attack box. We go to the bottom, you can see it right here, shellcode.ps1. We'll go ahead and download this. Boom, we have downloaded it. Alright, so let's go ahead and make sure. And you can see, you can confirm here, we got a get request for the shellcode.ps1. And boom, it is now on our computer. And that, so if you didn't want to copy and paste everything over line by line like the guide says, that's how you could do it. A little trick I learned in my hack the box days. So let's go back to where we were. So we've done this, we've got the file. Now we got to set up our listener, and we got to run it. So let's get out of here. So to close the server, we just hit Control-C, and now it is no longer hosting. Now we're going to do our netcat on 11.11, and back to Windows. And so let's open up PowerShell here and run it from there. So we're a glitched user right now. Let's do an ls. I'm pretty sure we got to go downloads folder. Yeah, downloads. Ls again. So a good habit to have is anytime you change a directory, just ls, because you're going to be able to see what's in there. And you can see the shellcode is right there. So we'll do that. Run it. We're waiting. We're still waiting. So we're not admin. That's why it didn't work. Alright guys, so I realized after spending about 45 minutes here trying to figure out why this file wouldn't run, it's not because we don't have admin privileges. It's more so that Defender is flagging it as a malicious file, and since we don't have admin privileges to disable Windows Defender to run the file, what it does is it just blocks it and then deletes it off the system. So that whole method that I showed you about getting the file onto the system and then running it won't work. But what it will do is, if you can't copy and paste like I can't, then it will make it easier to copy and paste. So we do have to copy and paste line by line just for this example. Really freaking annoying. I'm sure there's a way around it by obfuscating and doing all that stuff, but that's going to take me hours to learn and understand and perform. So for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the part where I've copied everything and I'm on the last 3 lines to get that reverse shell. So let's go ahead and do it. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Alright guys, so I'm back. I actually figured out a little trick that I'm going to show you guys for copying. And what I went ahead and did was, instead of going ahead with the 1111 reverse shell, I'm just going to go with the 4444, which is the one we need to get the flag to complete the room. So what I did was I regenerated the shellcode for with that port. So you can see here 444, copied it over into the file, set up the Python HTTP server to copy it over to the Windows computer. Then I started my netcat listener on 4444, and then over here I've been copying, you can see, and I'm about to finish up. I'm on the last few lines here, so we'll go ahead and enter there. When you're copying, like you see here, CRT thread equals at quotes, and then there's a quote at down here. You can literally just copy that whole section, paste it in, and then hit enter, and it will copy over correctly. So you don't have to do it line by line, and it saves a lot of time. You can get through the base script a lot quicker. Alright, so I'm about to copy over the last line here. And God willing, it should work. Let's see. Hey, it worked, guys. We did it. Oh god, dude, copying all that stuff over, man, bro, that was painstaking. So let's hit an ls over here. Or sorry, dir. Alright, the dir worked. Alright, so let's go back over here. Alright, so it's in the desktop, so we'll go ahead, and I'll read this to you guys in a sec, but I just want to do that. Okay, got it, guys. So the reason why it's like not using Linux commands is because I believe we're in a like command prompt type shell right now, even though we did try to specify PowerShell. So dir is what you use to list out in a directory in command prompt, and then you need to have this specific syntax for switching directories, and dot just means present directory, and then we're going to the desktop. So let's go list out everything in desktop. And there is the flag.txt, the new document, text document. That was something I made. Type. Man, prompt freaking sucks, bro. Linux is better. Yay. Guys, I just want you to know that I spent like 2 hours trying to record this, and the video is probably only going to be like 25 to 30 minutes. All because of the copy and paste issue that I had, like, and also trying to be smart and stuff, and use my web servers to get the file over and all that stuff. But we got it done. So let's go over here, put the flag in there, submit. Yo, homie, we did it. Let's go. All right. So to recap, what we did was learn about how to generate a payload for reverse shell using msfvenom. We learned how to actually execute the reverse shell by executing the file on Windows and then connecting to our netcat listener over on our attack box. We also learned a cool little trick, which is hosting a HTTP server with Python to get files from a different computer over to a Windows computer or Linux computer. You can do it with either one. You just navigate to the browser. And we also learned that having copy and paste is very, very useful and saves us a lot of time. But yeah, guys, so we'll go ahead and read this right here. Now Glitch must act, no time to delay, to fix the shellcode and keep foes at bay. He tweaks any codes to set the wrongs right, protecting his secret. Glitch has realized he's no longer receiving incoming connections from his home base. Mayor Malware's minion team seems to have tampered with the shellcode and updated both the IP and port, preventing Glitch from connecting. The correct IP address for Glitch is attack box, and the successful connection port should be 4444. I'm actually pretty sure that if you just searched on desktop, it's probably there. Let's go see. Open up that. Go desktop. Yeah, so if you had just gone to the desktop, you could have avoided all this pain. But the whole point was to show you how a reverse shell works and how to execute it and all that stuff. But yeah, that's all good, guys. So if you enjoyed watching me slave away for 2 hours copying pasting this PowerShell script line by line, hit the like for my sanity, subscribe if you care, and share this with a friend who you think would benefit from this knowledge. This has been Cyber Sensei Aaron. I'll see you guys for day 9 is the next one. And appreciate you guys stopping by. Peace.